I think there's a perception that it's a very male-dominated and can some to be a macho and physical career. You know, I've got 30 years in policing and it's changed phenomenally during that time. I felt like I was a handful of women when I joined, but now we've got over or nearly 50% of our joiners are women.
I don't think it's jobs for the boys anymore. I think it's become a lot more diverse, especially specialised units. So I think that's come on leaps and bounds.
When I joined policing, I think that we often had a kind of macho mentality. We always had to present this really tough exterior and you weren't allowed to show your feelings, etc, etc. Policing's moved on massively during the quarter of a century basically that I've been an officer. We recognise now that people are individuals and that kind of macho culture is just not acceptable. Culturally we've moved on from that. We have much greater numbers of female officers.
I think in the past that opportunity within all departments and at rank has not been there. I think things have changed phenomenally. If you look now, we've got nearly a third of all our chief constables are women. That's taken time and it's taken challenge. But I think now in every department we see that opportunity, and as we get more and more women in the organisation, it'll change even more and the culture will change.
I think sometimes people worry about the conflict that they may deal with without realising the amount of training that everyone is given in terms of officer safety and dealing with conflict resolution, etc. So I think sometimes that can be an issue.
I think some of the underrepresentation goes back historically to women thinking it's too dangerous, it can't be balanced with family life, what if I need to do flexible working. The service recognised all those issues, moved on, introduced flexible work practices, introduced career breaks, recognised the needs of family more and allowed people that flexibility.
Policing's changed phenomenally. I've got 2 daughters. I've had those daughters while I've been in policing. I was probably one of the first ones sort of 20 odd years ago that went part-time, and now flexible working opportunities, term time working are all available. I think there's been those pathfinders that have really changed the culture, and I think as people come in with different aspirations, that will change the culture as well. So yes, I do think there is real opportunity to get that balance of family and career.
People often ask, you know, how do you balance family life with being a police officer? Well, for me, I've got 5 children, and I have to admit it's always been a juggling act. It's something that's never easy, but actually that the service helps you to deal with, whether that be in flexible work practices, time off for dependence leave, for example, if they're ill. You can have parental leave, paternal leave. Obviously, we've got good leave anyway in terms of the number of weeks that you're granted, but we do everything possible to accommodate families because we recognise that if our staff can't look after their own family, then how can they be an effective officer and how can we keep them at work? And we do not want to lose our staff, so it's important that we're family friendly.
I think forces have improved a lot over the last couple of years regarding those that have families, especially single parent families. I have quite a few LGBT people that have got children either through IVF or adopted, and I've found that the police forces have supported them all through the procedures and also during the childcare and welfare of that person during this time.
We have to be realistic. There is for officers, particularly frontline uniformed officers, an element of physical demand, but it's about preparing people for that. This is not about having people that are very physical and sort of, you know, in stature large. This is about us preparing you and training you, and that's what we do. We do that as you come into the service, and we do that on a regular basis. A lot of the job is about de-escalating conflict, not creating conflict as well. So I think particularly that interpersonal skills and coming in with those interpersonal skills that we develop for you means that yes, there's a physical element, but hopefully that's not a vast majority of the job. I think fitness can be a real worry for everybody. It's sometimes a real worry, you know, it was for me when I first came back from having my children as well. There is a physical element and there's a physical test to pass. It isn't a difficult physical level. We'll help and support you in that. We'll show you what it is, and we will actually put that sort of wraparound to enable you to do that. It's to make sure you're fit enough to do some of the elements of the job, but it's not, you certainly don't have to be able to do a marathon to get through that physical fitness. And if you're worried about your age, I can do it.
People worry about the fitness side of being a police officer. What I would say is we're not looking for Olympians. In fact, if I'm honest, when I joined, which was many years ago, the actual running side of it was much more difficult. We're looking for you to have a basic level of fitness, and you can do a lot to help yourself with that. If you smoke, reduce it or give up. Don't drink too much alcohol. If you're carrying a little bit too much weight, maybe look to lose some, and do some basic training, jogging, maybe some interval training, other sports as well that you just enjoy, whether that be football, tennis, whatever it happens to be, and just build up that level of fitness. Above all, don't worry, if you're committed enough and you want to be an officer, the test is not something that's going to stand in your way.
The fitness test, I believe, is not as frightening as people think it's going to be. There are also things that can be put in place if you do fail a fitness test, where you will be supported and given plans and direction to improve to pass the fitness test. So I don't think it's anything that anybody should be worried about. It can be adapted to fit your needs.